All righty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Episode 37 of No One Asked Us, yet here we're talking. And this week, I am fortunate, or we are fortunate rather, to have Liv Short, who is a strategic leadership consultant and founder of Short Solutions, where she helps executive teams clarify priorities, streamline processes, and drive tangible results. Known for her sharp problem solving skills and people first approach, Liz works with organizations to improve leadership effectiveness, enhance teams' performance, and navigate complex challenges. She's a prolific content creator on LinkedIn, where she shares insights on leadership, productivity, and personal growth with a growing audience of professionals. Her real world experience and energetic delivery make her a trusted voice for leaders who want to get things done and build stronger, more effective teams. It really should be, in the words of Liv Short, to get shit done, first and foremost. And secondly, ChatGPT did not add on there that she is the co-author of the amazing book, Rethink Everything You Know About Networking, which I got to tell you, and this is no slam on anybody else's Rethink Everything You Know book, because at this point it's hard to even keep track of how many of these books actually exist. But I will say, without a shadow of a doubt, I don't believe that anybody has marketed a Rethink You Know Everything About book more than Liz Short. Period. The end. So every corner I turn, there's always the pink book. And as we were joking before we came on the air, I'm still waiting to see where mine is. So, because apparently Liz has a copy of the book. I don't have a copy.
Andrew, I get shit done. Of course, I got the hardcover. Of course.
Nice. You got the hardcover.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I get shit done. I have a copy already. Come on.
There you go. All right, Suha. Where's my copy, Suha? If you write a chapter, you don't get a copy, apparently. Liz, thank you so much for being on. I appreciate you taking the time. For everybody out there, unfortunately, Chris Mace has a personal situation going on. He may be able to join us, maybe not. We'll see. But you still got PK and I here. Anybody who is watching live, feel free to drop questions into the chat if you have any. But let's start off, where we always do with our guests, which is, no little girl growing up is like, geez, I really want to be in mortgage operations or mortgage tech, or certainly is not like, I'm going to be a consultant about mortgage operations and tech. So how did the lovely Liz Short end up in the mortgage industry to begin with? Or can we start with one question before that? What did you want to be when you were a little kid?
Oh, wow. I mean, a couple different things for sure. I definitely had a lot of different things that little Liz, let's say, wanted to be, but definitely one of them was I wanted to perform in some way, right? I was probably the shyest kid who also wanted to be on stage and get all of the attention in the world, which maybe isn't a surprise if you know me a little bit, but that's what I was. I was an artsy kid, right? I was in theater. I love all that stuff. Now, I also like to make money. But it's funny you ask. No one says, what do you want to do when you grow up? Because I come from a mortgage background. My dad was in mortgage my whole life growing up. And so I actually said, I don't know what I want to do, but I know what I don't want to do. And I don't want to be in mortgage. And so I fought that and I fought that and I fought that. I eventually gave in. I went to school. I went to school for women's studies. I wanted to do domestic violence work, and I was going to, run a domestic violence shelter. And, again, I also like making money and fell into the mortgage world. So that's kind of how I ended up here. And, they say once you start, it's hard to get out. But I think, what I've found is there's a lot of work that needs to be done in our industry. And so, when I moved from the manufacturing side, right, being in the mortgage side to the consulting side, it's been so fun because I always say there's more problems to solve in mortgage than there are consultants at this point in time. And it's kind of been a fun journey now, helping us all evolve, hopefully, into the next chapter of this industry.
I love the make money part. I remember my oldest son, I believe he was like 8 years old, and I asked him, I was like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he goes, what pays the most?
Not a bad question, okay? Not a bad question.
So
and that
originally
changes,
I told
right?
him he should be a securities trader at JP Morgan. He actually toured the trading floor at 8 years old at JP Morgan. So we'll see. Maybe that'll stick true from that perspective. All right, so let's talk about short solutions, right? You guys do a lot. I mean, so feel free. Let's start wherever you want in terms of the services that you cover, because you are I would say you're extremely talented and quite a very diverse array of
range.
You got range, girl.
Thank you. Well, I think we really, what I like to say is fit a sweet spot, right? Because my background evolved into the mortgage technology space. In the 07-08 crash, we went through 3 different acquisitions that I survived through, which meant we went through 3 different LOS changes and 2 vendor changes within about a 2.5-year period. And so I very quickly, as I was called in to ask questions about, what the technology needed to do, understood that a lot of times the right questions weren't being asked, instead of them people not wanting to build a product that fits the needs of the company, right? And a lot of times when I was a user of mortgage technology, I remember sitting around being like, who do they ask questions to when they build this stuff, right? And they were asking the right people. It's just they weren't asking the right questions. And so that kind of started my passion about how do we kind of bridge that gap between what technology can bring to the table. I mean, let's face it, even in 07, 08, 2010, right? We had much more technology available than a lot of institutions were using. And then how do we get people to use technology, right? This industry, I mean, in general, people are adverse to change. We very much are. And we are very much rooted in a place where the way we've trained people, the way we learn is that we turn to someone, right, and say, hey, how do we do this? Teach me how to do this. And so how do you get people to evolve? How do you get people to adopt? How do you get people to document their processes in a way that can bring on new technology? Those have always been problems that I've been fascinated to solve. And so Short Solutions comes in and helps executives and organizations, long and short of it, figure out why they can't get shit done. Excuse my language. I'm sure I can say that, right? In a few different areas. First and foremost, and I brought this up, is technology, right? That's kind of my sweet spot. So a lot of times I get a call because either someone wants to bring on a new piece of technology and they're getting a lot of different questions and answers from a lot of different people, and they need someone to kind of help them make an apples to apples comparison in a world that is not very apples to apples anymore.
Right.
Or folks have bought a piece of technology. They rolled it out, and guess what? No one's using it. I come in and my team helps them figure out what is that challenge with adoption and how do we make different choices in the future that help us kind of solve these problems. So high level, that's what we do on the technology side. There's also a social media part, which I'll get to in a second. But, the long and short of it is a lot of problems are based on decisions that are made by the leadership in the very beginning of projects. And so, it's not only about helping an organization figure out that specific problem that they're trying to solve, right, as far as technology, but how do we end up here? Right? How do we end up at a place where we don't either have the knowledge that we do to make the decision ourselves, or we are so far in the hole that nothing's moving forward? And training their team, training them to grow and evolve in a way that we all need to in this industry now is kind of what I'm passionate about, right? I want to create a company that I can walk away from and watch them thrive versus a situation where we have to be involved. I want to teach you to grow your own and fish for yourself, if you will. And so that's what we need to specialize in.
Well, and I think also what people get when they hire you is their and hopefully I can articulate this properly, but is they're buying the bandwidth for thought. So there was a really interesting quote I heard from Jeff Bezos a little while back, which was his when he was CEO, he ensured that his senior management that only 25% of their day was taken up by busy work. And he wanted 75% of their day to be thinking. And he was like, if you do not allow for your strategic senior management to have time to think, you're never going to make good decisions. The reality, like it or not, of most organizations is nobody has any freaking bandwidth whatsoever, right? So it may not even be that you've done anything wrong. It may not even be that you don't have the right people in place. It's just merely you need someone who you can buy their thinking power for a period of time. You don't need it forever. I'm not looking to hire Liz for eternity, but maybe I need her for 3 to 6 months to get this done and to do it at the level that I really want to do it with, because otherwise I've got somebody who's constantly context switching all day long, trying to figure out like what should I do next? And we'll just jump right off the edge with this topic, which it's one thing, and I talk about this a lot. It's one thing if you're doing an LOS change, right? It's another thing if you're doing or a CRM change or a POS change, right? Those we know are big undertakings, right? And we understand that things like that require somebody, like you, and can really benefit from having a consultant like yourself come in. But if we talk about AI, like that's a whole different game. And here's why. And it's been really interesting because I feel like I've had a front row seat to this. Is with AI, you're not replacing technology to a large degree, right? Like like even our product, like when I'm talking to people about it, like I realize like I'm not replacing someone's CRM or their LOS. Like I'm an entirely new thing. Like and for a lot of people, they don't have the time to really think about, okay, what makes sense? Because a large swath of the AI applications that are coming out, they're not a replacement. You're not ditching another technology to bring in this technology. You're either rethinking your workflows entirely, or you're looking at manual components that are just being retired.
It's not just work to implement the technology, it's work to get your own house in order at a level that you can actually even start to implement the technology, which is completely different than a lot of other software that we see. And I love to tell my clients, one of my speeches at the very beginning is, I'm going to make you go slower than you want to do. I'm going to make you go a lot slower, because it is really easy to sit in a room and get excited to have a bunch of executives together and agree that you have the money to spend on implementing these 10 solutions in the next 12 months. There's only so much change your customers, your employees, your organization can handle at once. And so, money isn't everything. People aren't everything. There is a certain amount of change that can be done at once. And I agree with you. I mean, I come in all the time and tell people, you're not ready to take this on as well too. And it's not even AI a lot of times, right? It's the fact that they're trying to do all of those other things that you just said within the same 12-month period too. And, you can do it all. You can't do it all at the same time. And you have to be spending, they're not going to be spending 75% of their time, but at least 10% of your time at the right time thinking strategically, and then have the strength and fortitude to stick to that strategic plan for 12 months, right? You might have an opportunity to, have something major that comes in, right? We all know what 2020 did, but so often executives from quarter to quarter are completely shifting their strategies, and you can't, again, be successful if you're chasing your tail. And so how do you find a partner that can come in and, I tell my clients that they're not doing the right thing sometimes. And that's what you're paying me to do, right? You don't have to do what I say to do, but a lot of times your employees are just going to say yes because they want to make it happen for you. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing. And that's my job to help you navigate through.
Well, but it's so hard. It's really hard right now because there's a new flavor of the week every week, right? Like there's a new a new shiny object of like, and I even watched this like in the tech realm. It's like not to belabor the friggin' OpenClaw discussion that people are probably exhausted with. At least PK and I am probably exhausted with. But like it's a perfect example, right? Where it's like, if everybody remembers the cartoon movie Up with the dog, who's like squirrel, like that's sort of the world we live in right now. With like, oh my God, look at the new, like, everybody wants to talk about the new shiny technology that just came out. And it's like, it's funny to me how dated you can become as a technology provider in the space right now.
It's true. It's true. It is.
Those guys are old. Been around for a year.
You're talking to them. And on the other side, just like every other decision that you make, the newest, the best, right, might not be what's best for you either. And so how do we get into a place where, as CEOs, owners, executives, leaders of organization, when we're constantly all being told the world is changing, you have to adopt now. If you don't, you're being left behind, right? How do you balance that with the fact that, you need to figure out what does make you different? How are you using new technology to reinforce what your value add is? And all too often, and this is even before, the recent changes, we're chasing what we think make our competitors successful instead of really focusing on what strategically we need to do to focus on increasing our revenue, increasing our client base, and, making our employees happy. And I think those can all be done with technology as well. But you can't do it all at the same time.
Liz, I got a question. So there's like this, I guess like two kind of like thought processes around technology in this industry, especially now with all the AI stuff around like maybe the fear around AI is that, hey, this is going to get rid of all my people. And the people are going to be more resistant to change because they're like, hey, these things are supposed to get rid of me. I'm not going to have a job, right? Or that's the narrative, at least. I disagree with that. That's my take, and I can go about that. But I'm also curious to hear how you think about it and how you would help a mortgage leader, like leadership, like think about these solutions from a different point of view. Because I think, or maybe I'll just prime it with my thought process, and then you can dismantle it if you disagree. But my thought process is today there's a lot of things that are being done manually, which could be done with some of these new tools that are coming out either today itself or like let's say the next year, right? That's going to free up your people to do other things. Human desire is not static, meaning like when things become possible, we were like, oh, we want more. And so it's not that your borrowers' expectations are going to stay standard. They're gonna go increase in terms of what they expect out of you. So there's more work for your people to do. And there's currently things that your team wants to do that they're not doing today because they just don't have bandwidth. So it's not that, you plug this tool in and fire your entire team. It's you plug this tool in and tell your team to think of other ways they can serve your borrowers and your brokers better, rather than like getting rid of them. Like that's not the right answer. And so at least that's my take. I'm curious to hear how you think about it and how you would coach like an executive who's seeing all the shiny objects, who's kind of like looking at their people that are like, hey, these are people I've been in the business with for the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years. How do I balance this? And how would you help somebody like that walk through that process?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we've been up against for a really long time in this industry, right? Especially, I come from mortgage operations. That's where I started, and mortgage operations historically has been built to, scale up when times are good and break the backs of the people as we need them to work as much overtime as humanly possible and learn as much as humanly possible, and quickly, oh so quickly, we lay them off on the other side. And so the only way that mortgage operations managers have been able to protect their people is from the advent of technology removing them, right? We have no control really over layoffs or anything else. And so there's just always been this rub against bringing in tools that can actually help their team, right? And help the whole process as well, too. What I tell executives, especially now, is number one, messaging matters, right? And if they're coming to the table with these conversations about headcount, right? Even in their head, right? If they're coming from a, hey, I could save this much money in headcount, or how many people can this replace? That's trickling down within the organization, and you're going to have that resistance, right? What I believe we're trying to do now is create an environment where technology is able to handle the surge that will happen, right? We will have another surge in mortgage. And what we want to be able to do is not have to hire brand new people off the street to try and meet the needs, and instead have a sustainable career where we're able to assist the people who continue to grow with this technology to be able to create a sustainable process where it's not feast or famine. And, if you're in mortgage sales or you're in mortgage operations, we know how cyclical this is. And I think that technology is the solution to this. And it's the solution. And that's how we really, quote unquote, save our people long term. Right. And so that's really what I advocate for. And that's my messaging. And I agree with everything you just said, PK, right? There is so much work that could be done or could be done better if the folks that we have at these organizations today, we have them freed up from the very mechanical tasks that they're doing to be able to elevate them into, more of these either white glove human contact touch points that we need to have with the addition of technology too, or to, advance them in some more, thought leadership roles as well too. We really break the backs of our people historically in this industry. And I think technology is here to sustain them long term. Now, does that mean that I live in some rainbow and unicorn world where everyone is going to have a job or the same job that they have today? Absolutely not. And they shouldn't, right? I mean, if your job is to export data from one system and upload to the system, I like that. First of all, gosh, that must be the most boring job in the world day in and day out. But we need to improve that and get that into a different sort of role. There are things that just don't need to be done that way anymore in our industry.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with you. I also think that people ask the wrong question. And I think the question that you should ask in an organization is, how do I make my best people more efficient?
Absolutely.
Like, how do I, like, we talked about this with Jeremy Davis last week, right? Which is in a world that becomes more and more, technological, the more that people crave the analog, right? Like, I'm still amazed that like we sell, vinyl albums, right? Like, blows me away. I'm going to stick with my Apple Music, but hey, it's popular, right? Like, we look at like what is it called? Like the Unphone or whatever, like the, right? I forget exactly what it's called, right? But like, this is just a natural evolution, right? So I'm just going to pick on the LO, right, as an example. But like, what you want to move towards is, what do I want my LO doing? What is my LO great at doing? Is my LO great at writing a 1003? No. Is my LO great at obtaining bank statements from the borrower? No. My LO is really good at talking to people. My LO is really good at building relationships, right? There's a he's the corniest sales guy on Instagram, but I love him. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He sells roofing, which it's absolutely hilarious. But he has this thing he calls it's Mofhoff or something Mofhoff, and it's make a friend, help a friend, right? And like his whole sales strategy, his whole entire sales strategy in life is make a friend, help a friend, right? And that's all. That's all he does, right?
I like that.
And in very many ways, right? Like if I ran a mortgage originator, that's the way I would look at it. Is I would look at each person and go, okay, what is this person's superpower, right? Like maybe there's a person who their superpower is deal structuring, right? Or structuring loans. Okay, well, if that's the case, do I really need whoever, sitting there recalculating DSCR income on every frigging loan that comes through the door? No. What do I need that person? I need that person to be able to get to those extremely complex, difficult to, structure deals as fast as possible. And that's where they should be spending all their time. Okay. So now I have to ask myself, okay, how do I do that? How do I make sure that Susie has the bandwidth to always be on structuring those incredibly difficult deals as quickly as possible so that I ensure that those deals get in the board. So I think a lot of times people are like, how do I get cheaper and faster, just as a general blanket statement, rather than asking that question of how do I make my best people more efficient?
Absolutely. And again, because historically mortgage has been so prescriptive, right? It's this role, it's this role, it's this step, it's this step. A lot of because of how mortgage technology used to force you into the process. Let's be honest. We very rarely had opportunities to think outside of the box like that, right? It's like, no, this role is this. That's what it's done. I mean, I've talked to so many folks that originate mortgages, right? And the main difference up until recently has been, do you do upfront underwriting or do you send the loan to the processor first, right? And this was like the big, oh my gosh, you won't believe how we do it different here, Liz. And so I don't mean this in a bad way, but we really are forcing folks to think so much differently than they ever have before in this industry. And these a lot of times are the folks that have been in charge for a long time and are still in charge. And so you're absolutely right. We are at a point in time where, I don't know that the mortgage industry will ever be, disrupted in this giant space, but it's in the middle of being disrupted already, right? And the folks that are doing it successfully are doing exactly what you're saying, right? They're rethinking how you do structure and originate a loan and how you integrate your best folks and the best technology that you have into this new process too. But that's a lot different than mortgage origination was, back in the day when I got into the industry.
Okay, so I got a question. Go ahead, Andrew, you're gonna say something?
No, go ahead.
It's actually just picking up off what you just said right there, the back in the day piece. Kobe and I think Kobe was on the call a couple weeks ago and he talked about this as well, but we've had a conversation about this. But I think both you and Andrew got involved in the business relatively young. Andrew, I think you were in your late 20s when you got involved. And so I think you don't see as many young people in the business today, whereas like I feel like a lot of the people that are currently in the business were super young and like, in their 20s or early 30s when they got involved in the business, and now they've grown on to be fantastic leaders and things like that. So like, how do you solve for that piece? And that seems to be like there's like an aging population in the industry, and like who's gonna carry the baton and write the next chapter in this book.
So I want to jump in here real quick because and Liz, I want you to answer this question.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. I think there is a little bit of a misnomer on this.
She did. Is she? There we go.
I'm here. Sorry, guys.
Quite all right. I was like, all right.
I'm so offended. I'm going.
It's like, all right.
She's like, Andrew started talking. I'm leaving.
So I've been around long enough. Liz is much younger than me. In spirit. If nothing else. If nothing else. Liz and I have this joke about Liz's age, and I'm convinced that I'm 10 years older than Liz. I will always, no matter what the driver's licenses say, I'll always be so I've been around for a while, and I have heard this more than once about how do we get younger people into the industry. Here's the problem. The problem is the cyclical gutting of the industry.
Yep.
This is hands down, no question. And I will point to 5 years ago, really, when I built Canopy in 2020, 2021. We went from 13 people to 130 people in the course of 5 months. I will tell you that the vast majority of people we hired there were at least, well, maybe not vast majority, but at least 40%, 30% were new to the industry and were under the age of 30. I guarantee you, I don't know. I sold that company. I'm no longer a part of it. So I can't tell you for certain, but I can assure you that in the downturn in 2022, a lot of those people ended up leaving the industry. And what I have watched is you get, and this even happened with me. Like I started, to your point, PK, in the early 2000s, I started in the industry. I was a little bit older coming in, quite frankly. I was in my late 20s. I survived. Like my claim to fame was I had a job in the mortgage industry in 2009, right? Like, but I would tell you that 75% of the people I worked with fell out of the industry as a result. And it's just the natural thing is the senior leadership remains and you get this drop off, right? And it's been building and it's getting worse and worse and worse. But I think what Liz was touching on a moment ago that's so critical is we've got to stabilize the industry to where it is a guaranteed career path. The reality is if you become an underwriter today, it's not guaranteed that 10 years from now you can find an underwriting job, right? Like I'm going outside of mortgage, but like I'll never forget when I heard the average career span of a real estate agent is 7 years. Like that's friggin' crazy. Yeah. So the industry traditionally has not been the best at being a stable place of employment for certain roles. So cyclically, we see giant fallout like as a result. Now, a lot of that fallout is because a lot of the energy is towards manual processes. So my hope here is that as technology gets better and better, we start to see more stabilization, which then allows for younger people to enter the industry. Because I was joking when you were asking that question, PK, but the reality is where are most of the young people in the mortgage industry today? They're in tech. They're in mortgage tech.
Mm-hmm. Or sales.
Yeah.
Or sales. Mm-hmm. But a lot in mortgage tech. Yeah. But like, I don't see a lot of 20-something underwriters running around.
No.
True.
Well, and again,
it's my soapbox.
As we hit another cycle, whatever that looks like, the problem is the last cycle was so deep. It's going to be hard to get to that boom level for a while. But I absolutely agree with you both. I mean, you jokingly started out by saying nobody ever says they want to get into mortgage, right? I think that's historically been true. It's historically, I can tell you every organization I've ever worked in has always at some point in time had to grow your own initiative, or how do we start attracting college kids into the industry, right? It has been an ongoing problem, but I think as the world gets more and more unstable, as folks need to be able to have probably a more secure income, it's been harder for people to take a chance. I lucked in. I didn't want to do it. They were paying a lot of money, and before 07, 08 crash, and I got in the right time. Good. I'm sure you did the same thing around kind of that pre-crash time, and so it's for the right person. It's a great opportunity, but I feel very fortunate that I was able to ride all those waves. But I don't know that I would suggest that as a solid career path for anyone else at this point in time, right? And so how do you kind of navigate that? If someone wants to get into sales, great, right? That's technology. I think those are two different paths, although technology, depending on what you do, right? It's changing, the world's changing a lot too. But I think we have to, number one, figure out how to stabilize that. I think honestly, number two, there is still too much old guard who is still doing things the same way. And I think that until you get kind of some of the next generation coming up with some new ideas, it's going to be hard to attract the younger generation. I think different generations obviously have different things they're looking for in careers. And so I think having, leadership that is kind of forward thinking and having maybe some different values is important as well too. And so how do we evolve both in style of organization as well in technology to help more people want to come into the organization? I think number one, and then you have to have a career path and ladder, right? You have to be able to, as you're replacing these sort of entry-level jobs, right? And a lot of them in our industry historically have been manual. How are you getting people into your organization now, right? How are you attracting people and then being able to have them grow and find a path so they stay with you? I think these are all the questions that we have to solve as an industry in order to, keep attracting folks.
Yeah, I remember being in college, like the path for me, because I did an engineering degree, was like, oh, you go be an engineer and you just kind of work up your way through management. And I had friends in business school, and like for them it was a lot of like going into either sales or finance or investment banking and things of that nature. Like those were like the sexy jobs. Never in like 4 years of college did I hear anybody say, I'm going to go be a loan officer or I'm going to go work in the mortgage industry. Because that, even though the amount of money you can make in there like is ridiculous. Like if I knew I could go be a loan officer and make crazy amounts of money freshman year, I would have dropped out and done that. But like that was never even on my horizon, right? Like, and no, I've never heard about anybody doing it in the 4 years, I was in school. And so it's kind of, and then I come out and I find there's like all these young people, or not young people, but like maybe people in their late 20s and 30s that become loan officers, and maybe they were like one out of like 100 people or 200 people that and they were doing really well in the living life very comfortably, and they're for their age range. I'm like, wow, you're making so much money while I'm over here doing my engineering job, like like making a fraction of what you make. And so it was kind of like really this eye-opening experience. And I was like,
and it's usually those folks are either people that have family in the industry already.
Exactly.
Or they had the right person come into their life for some reason that, like you said, early exposure. But you're absolutely right. It's not seen as, we think of a banker as someone who is sitting behind the teller line, cashing your checks, not necessarily, as we see it today in the mortgage world, for sure. It's very interesting.
It's funny when you think about it. It's the largest industry in the United States, and yet we don't talk about any of the jobs that are in that industry ever, really.
Yeah. It's wild.
Like it's kind of strange and bizarre. Okay.
Well,
so no, please go ahead.
I was going to say, but that again ties back to the strategic part, right? Because a lot of times as leaders, we're either too busy because rates are so low and it's just hire whoever and get the loans through and get the money made, or we're too slow and get rid of costs. How can we cut costs? We got to have layoffs. Can we have one more round of layoffs? Can we get a few more dollars off the books, right? And so again, if you're just reactive and not having, again, things change, right? I'm not saying you don't adjust your strategy, but we're just flipping back and forth with no strategy. And I think that is, again, how do you how do you build longevity based on that? It's really hard to.
Which does come to the point of if you want to look at, and somebody can tell me I'm wrong here, but I would argue that the number one producer of young people in the industry is Rocket. If you go to Rocket's campuses in Detroit, the median age is extremely low. And that's because when Dan Gilbert really set that up, and he really made the intent of going out and hire, and they continue to, right? And they have really good track record with that. But Rocket also has the balance sheet that they're able to, number one, be very thoughtful even in busy times, but also to be thoughtful about the future in slower times. So
absolutely.
So it does.
I agree with about. Go ahead, Liz.
I was going to say, what I believe part of their success, right? Like being able to grow your own is just such a huge win.
100%.
Right? And, again, their size now allows them to do it, and it just keeps feeding them in a positive fashion, I believe.
Yeah.
I agree. Liz, you hit the point about allowing you to growing your own, but I think that comes first before the balance sheet, and not the balance sheet before that. So I think
you have to find a way. Even, I have a very small consulting company, right? I still have a way for folks who come into my organization, right, to achieve what they want to achieve when they work for me, to be able to grow, understand what the work they want to do. You can do it within a smaller organization, right? It just takes a little bit of time, a little bit of thoughtfulness, a little bit of strategy, and the resources that you allocate to doing it as well. And I agree. You have to do it in order to grow successfully.
100%. There's no question about it. Okay, so we're a little late dragging into the second portion of this, but I do want
shocking.
Would you? We'll bring back Liz 2.0. I do want to talk about social media a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that is also a huge part of your world.
Crazy, but yes.
And we're gonna leap right in so that we don't run out of time and lose Jeremy's question. So we're gonna ask Jeremy Davis's question from last week. But then I also want to talk about what does Short Solutions. But you are definitely a very active person when it comes to LinkedIn, maybe TikTok. I don't know. I'm not on TikTok. You drop into my Instagram reels every now and again. I know that. But what Jeremy's question was, how do you ensure authenticity in a digital social media atmosphere where you must be posting constantly?
Yes, good question. And it's funny, right? Because I just told you a lot about my background, and none of it was social media. And 50% of what we do here at Short Solutions is social media strategy and video specifically for social media, which is a crazy thing for me to say. And if you would have told me that 4 years ago, I wouldn't have believed it. But I have found a lot of success building my business on social media, LinkedIn specifically. I do dabble on Instagram, so nice to hear that crosses your feed every once in a while. But 95+% of my clients come from either folks that I've met directly on LinkedIn or referrals from folks that I've met directly on LinkedIn. But getting back to Jeremy's question, I think my success has become from the fact that I've shown up more or less as my imperfect self, right? I don't try to make myself, look like a superwoman who can solve everything. I'm not the perfect person. I'm not necessarily, like, I don't know that every video or every post I put out is the best, right? But it's something that I align with and speaks to me. I started this, 4 years ago, I started my business. A little over 3 years ago is when I started on my social media journey. And, at the time I I was watching a lot of folks who are on social media and kind of listening to, I guess, content creators. And something I heard at the time was like, somebody was asked like, hey, you've been doing this for like 7 or 8 years. Like, don't you look back on your old stuff and cringe? And her answer was, well, yeah, but I don't mind it, because if I didn't cringe, I wouldn't have grown. And that to me, like, just set off some sort of light bulb, right? It's like, oh, right. Like, everything I've ever done, I've just like not been great at, and then worked at it, and then gotten better. And so I don't know, that just kind of allowed me to show up in a different way, I think. And like, you can scroll back to the beginning of my feed and you can see very awkward Liz trying to, you know, get through everything. But I think that what I found is, you know, a blooper reel does better than, you know, me sounding perfect and having the perfect answer to someone. And so social media isn't about proving, you know, it's not an hour conversation like we're having now, right? It's about finding your people, and it's about people being like, hey, who's that person? Let me find out more about them. And so once I realized, like, if I don't show up as myself, I'm not going to connect to the right people, right? Like, it's self-selecting in a lot of ways. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and that's good, because I honestly, as a business owner, don't have time to waste on folks that aren't, you know, good matches for me as well too. And so I have been incredibly fortunate that I have been able to, you know, both connect with great folks, 2 of you included, right? We've all met through LinkedIn and then brought it in real life. But then I can also show up at a conference or, you know, on a call, and folks know what I'm about and who I am. And so to me, authenticity has been a shortcut to relationships and sales. And I don't know, it feels less icky too, if that makes sense, than trying to be like salesy or fake or anything like that. Like, I'm me. If you meet me out in the real world, I'm going to be the same way for the most part that I'm going to show up on camera. Maybe not red lipstick all the time, but you know, 9 times out of 10, I'm pretty on brand.
You bring up a great point, right? Which is the self-select out. So we're revamping our entire website right now, and one of the things that what came up as a point of discussion is, and we made a decision, we're putting our pricing on our website. It's going to be right there, like straight up. You'll know exactly what it costs to use our software. And there was a little bit of a discussion of like, and one of the things that somebody on the team brought up, and I thought it was a really excellent point, was they were like, well, if the price is a fucking problem, like why not have them figure it out right now, right? Yep. And I think absolutely. You know, I was asking Tim, I had this great conversation with a friend of yours, PK, yesterday on the holiday, who I was actually just wanting to talk to them about how they're using AI. It was not a sales call at all. I was not. And they got really curious about what we did. And I told them, and they had no idea who we were. Like, they had no idea what we did. They had no idea who I was. And I was talking to Tim this morning, and he goes, you know, I estimate 1% of the industry knows who we are. And I really, like, when he broke down the math for me, it was a little bit like, it hurt. I won't lie. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm like, that's small. Like, I thought I was a little bit better than that. But I guess not.
You're like, 1.0?
Come on, man. I can't get like 3. But to your point, Liz, I don't think people think about this enough, which is you don't want to be everyone's cup of tea, because if you are, you're super, super screwed, and you're going to waste a tremendous amount of time with people who are then going to figure out, oh, I don't really like working. Like, I mean, how many of you have gotten on a call with somebody and like 5 minutes into the call, you're like, fuck, I got to talk to him for 30. Right?
Never at all. Never.
Oh, it's time to me today. But I think you're right. I think for people, if you're looking at LinkedIn and you're thinking about this, like, be who you are. There are people who do not like me. There are people who do not like the fact that, like, I'm open about, like, you know, there's 2 taglines under my name, and one of them's normalizing bipolar. And for whatever reason, that friggin' bothers some people, and cool. I don't care. Just don't call me. There's plenty of people who want, but I mean, my calendar's busy enough. Like, I don't, don't get me wrong. I can still take some more meetings. But yeah, I think people miss out on that. They don't realize how big the world is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, especially if we're talking about like mortgage specifically, I mean, historically, nobody wanted you to show up on social media at all, let's be honest, right? And so until I started my own business, I only went on LinkedIn to change my job and my company if I got promoted or changed jobs, right? But individuality is very important now. People don't connect to an organization and then do business with a person. They connect to a person and then trust them and do business with the organization. And the smart companies are getting that, right? And that's why in mortgage, a lot of these regulations have been loosened, right, by the right companies. And you can post more. And I always like to say, just don't talk about anything you're not supposed to talk about. Like, no one wants to hear about rates. No one wants to hear about all that stuff, right? People want to know about you as a person. But it's kind of breaking the mold, because we're going from acting so smart and proving that we know as much as somebody else to being like, this is what makes me unique, right? And why you should trust me versus someone else. But the folks that are getting it, it's so powerful, right? And I think it really is moving the needle, both for those individuals and those organizations who let those individuals embrace that too, and embrace their own authentic self.
Well, and we're even seeing people who, quite frankly, and not only because, but like, follower count can matter in a hiring decision now, right? 100%. Like Brian, hopefully Brian won't get offended that I say this, but Brian, well, we talked about it on the show. Like, Brian View is a great example. Brian's a very, very capable leader. Let's be very clear on that. And is an incredibly intelligent human being who's been around the industry for a long time. But I will tell everyone till the end of time, the reason that I think Mismo made such a smart hire with Brian was because he is so visible in the industry. He's got like 35,000 followers on LinkedIn, which is a massive number for LinkedIn anyways. And that was what Mismo needed, right? Was they needed a face to the organization. So you're right. It is becoming more and more, of a piece that comes with it, for sure. There's no question about it.
Yeah, it's now a requirement, I feel like, moving forward, instead of just a nice to have. And, just like with technology, I think the organizations who are able to adapt are going to be the ones that continue to be successful as time goes on.
Okay, and I know you said no post on interest rates, but what about FICO and credit score?
There's just so many things to talk about. You don't just have to post about what you do for a living on LinkedIn. Did you know that?
Well, so that's interesting, because there is it is funny. LinkedIn is the only social media site where people will comment about what you should and should not post. I'll never forget, Ashley Gravano got railroaded by somebody because when Brian and I were all doing the music polls during the holidays. So Brian started by doing a rock and roll bracket, and then I did hip hop, and then Ashley did country, and somebody was like, what does this have anything to do with business? And it was like, it's social media. I don't it's, the word social is in there.
They're also going to be the best person to meet at a networking event. They're the person that's going to be like, hi, what's your name? What do you do? Okay, bye. I don't want to talk to you. Right. It's like, come on. This is about just getting to know people too. Right. You do know how to build relationships.
This is a Facebook post. That's the other one that people will be like, I don't know, this post is for Facebook. And it's like, here, what cracks me up about those people is you do realize there's an unfollow button. I don't there's a really simple solution to this. You can take it a step further. You can actually click on the post and tell LinkedIn to not show you posts like that anymore.
Yep. Absolutely. It's crazy. It's crazy the control you have without posting publicly your opinions.
But I
It's
just
their
don't
shadow. They want to do it so bad, but they're afraid.
No,
of
but
it.
Listen,
it
I
is
always
important. It is
listen.
important.
It's engagement, number one. So please comment whatever you want because it only helps. But I think it also shows, I always love it if I get kind of a funny comment. One time I had a video where I held an elevator open and then walked on, and someone's like, "That's so rude." It's like a third plus connection. It's so rude to hold the elevator open. Like, I high five my husband. I'm like, I got a hate comment. I've really made it an algorithm. You know what I mean? Like, it really shows something.
One of my favorite hip hop artists, I think Token is the one who talks about this Instagram. He says he's got a lyric. He's like, your hate is pennies in my piggy bank, which I always loved. Which is like,
I love it. I love
like
it. Give that post some engagement. You know what I mean?
Elevate my content in one way or another. How do you balance that though? Do you have like a mechanism that you sort of say like, okay, like how scripted, unscripted are you? Like, and what I mean by that, like, I know that your posts are always authentic, right? Because I imagine you're maybe somewhat like me, where it's like, I've got like Whisper Flow on my phone, right? And I'm upstairs watching stuff last night, on AI, and I'll like pause it and I'll like take notes of like where my thoughts are at. And then I can, throughout the week, I can come back to it and revisit it and be like, oh, I want to do a post about that. So it's not, but do you sit down and think about, hey, I'm going to do 3 professional posts, 2 personal posts? Do you have a ratio
100%.
or 100%.
Yeah, I have a monthly content calendar that I schedule out. So the way I deal with this all is I separate it, right? Like, if I had to wake up in the morning and say, what do I want to post today? And then record it and post it, I would never post anything. And so I have content pillars that I look at every 90 days. That's based on my strategy, because there's always a strategy behind everything we do, gentlemen. And then, every day of the week, there's a certain type of post. And then I, just like you said, I have a list of things where I keep all of my ideas, and then I sit down and I plug and play and then start scheduling them out. And then obviously the videos that I do, I have to record and edit, and I don't do my own recording and editing. I outsource that. And so, it's an assembly
interesting
line.
You do?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, my husband does he does all of the video editing for me as well as for all of our clients too. So we also basically
But does your husband do all the recording as well? Is that who does the recording?
Yeah, he records. Okay. He records and he edits. Yeah. And so, I write all the scripts, and then we batch record a bunch of stuff. I, batch write my contents, I batch write my posts, and then it gets scheduled. And
how much do you leverage AI in writing?
I use it a lot as an ideation partner. And I would say it gets my voice pretty close to being right. But I always want to say something a little differently. Right. But I mean, I wouldn't be able to produce the amount of content I produce without leveraging AI to help me ideate and create.
Claude or GPT?
Claude. It's better at writing, I think.
I just bit the bullet this morning, and I now officially pay for GPT, Claude, and Gemini. So,
Gemini's good for like web search stuff, but Claude's good.
Gemini's good for like large context windows too, because it has that billion token parameter. So every now and again, like I'll hit the context parameter or token parameter, and that's when I'll typically go to Gemini. So
I've been playing around.
What?
Did you just hit Whisper Flow and then rant?
No, it's typically when I need to. So if I have like a 2-hour transcription of a meeting, and I need to take that transcription, like GPT can't handle that large of a transcription, and so I'll go over to Gemini. I won't lie, like I feel like an old man now, because I'm like I've now gone to the dark side, and I'm like a Whisper Flow addict.
Oh, me too. I love it.
And that's like you officially hit old man status, I feel like, the moment that you get as hardcore into Whisper Flow. But I will say it it is a total game changer for like social media comments and email, and like it's so much more natural than typing, because I think I'm one of those people, I think faster than I type, so it's really difficult sometimes for me to keep it, you know, fully coherent with just typing. So okay, we're out of time, but you still have one more thing you have to do. So next week, episode 38, we have the ever wonderful and super buff Amanda Pad.
I feel so lucky that I'm between Jeremy Davis and Amanda Pad. Are you kidding me? Like two rock stars.
Which, by the way, both like bodybuilders, by the way. Like, I didn't notate this last week, but I remember the first time I saw Jeremy Davis in person, and I was like, God damn. I'm like, dude, ripped. But
yes.
Both of them are like
very serious about
very incredibly fit human beings. What is your question for Amanda for next week?
I love it. So I know that Amanda is on the road a lot, traveling, networking, meeting a lot of people face to face. I'd love to know how she builds authentic relationships, just meeting the vast number of people that she meets. And how does she weed through all of the connections to find the meaningful ones as a road warrior? And then how does she also wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and work out every day? She's a machine.
She is.
She is. Her it's insane. And she's in the gym. Any conference you go to, walk into that hotel at 5 o'clock in the morning, and there is a high likelihood that you will find Amanda in there. What does she do? I heard she says, I forget what the number was. It's either 100 or 300 push-ups a day.
300.
Oh yeah.
Is it 300?
I think it's 300.
That's just insane.
Yeah.
Like that's.
I mean, 100 sounds like an insane number to me.
Right.
But you look at her arms. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not surprised she can do 300 push-ups a day.
Kick my ass. There's no question about it. All right, Liz, thank you so much. It's always wonderful.
Guys, this has been so much fun. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you back here next week, whether you like it or not. For Amanda.